Right off the Barnary sub-stop, Philadelphia, PA. Shot so loud you would think it was a club spot. African Americans, although we all over the web, we the hood librarians. We ship to prisons too. We reach out and deliver to those that's bitten too. But it's more than a bookstore. You want it, we got it. Mixtapes, DVDs, and culture products. BlackandNobel got our hands in a lot of projects. We welcome all to come build. The energy is positive. And remember, other team is awakened conscious. Come through and experience this place of knowledge. They say they'll put it in a book if they wanna hide it from us. But we got them books so you can buy it from us. Something to read while you on a train or riding the bus. Get your read on, food for thought, get your eat on. BlackandNobel, I buy my books at BlackandNobel. BlackandNobel, I buy my books at BlackandNobel. BlackandNobel, I buy my books at BlackandNobel. BlackandNobel, I buy my books at BlackandNobel.
How everybody out there doing? First, my name is Kareem. You can call me Brother Kareem, whatever you like. And the purpose of this lecture is to study the origins of addiction among African American people. The concept that went into it because was based off the fact. Well, first of all, let me say that I'm a drug and alcohol counselor. That's pretty much what I do by profession. And for Black History Month, I designed this lecture specifically to talk about the history of addiction among African Americans. And the reason why I felt it was important for us to understand the history, because this is a long-standing battle between our people and drug addiction. And so it's always important in any struggle to understand the origins of the struggle. Understand how it began. Because, like, for instance, whenever you walk up on the crime scene, the first thing people say is, what happened? You know, and the reason why you want to know what happened, because you don't even know how you're going to feel about the situation until you find out what happened. Like, for instance, you see a guy laying dead on the street, and you may say, you say, what happened? And they say, well, he was trying to rob somebody. The guy turned the gun on him, shot him. And you may say, oh, well, you know, hey, he had it coming. But then again, if you say what happened, you walk up and they say, well, he was just going to the store, minding his business. He's a family man, and he got caught in the crossfire and got shot. Then that's going to make you feel a different way. So that's why it's always important to understand the origins of how something happened, and then you can proceed from there. So I chose to use the lives of some of the more well-known people among our people to trace this addiction, because we always look up to celebrities or well-known people and we idolize them. We think they're more important than we are, or they somewhat different than us. But what we're going to see as we journey through this history, this short history, is that they was no different than you and me, except that they chose to face what it was that was making them run to being addicts. They chose to face it and get over it and move on. And once you do that, what's inside you always comes out. It's unlocked. When you begin to discipline yourself, your natural greatness will start to come out. I don't got to do it like that no more. I can step out of place and you gonna cut the back door open. You gonna do it, right? Look at Snoop. Now he carrying on a legacy in this picture. Works every time. And that was popularized in the late 70s and 80s and early 90s by another Negro. And he probably the most popular of all of them. You know what I mean? Billy D. It works every time. He was on billboards, calendars, in every store. You couldn't go nowhere without seeing Billy D somewhere promoting this Coke 45. Look at this Negro. And that scene is still stuck in people, or that phrase is still stuck in people's heads today. It works every time. What is he really selling? What do he mean it works every time? What works every time? You know what I mean? It's like he's selling the beer, but he also promoting sex at the same time. That's why they use him as the symbol, because he's supposed to be the cool, he's the ladies' man. You know, so what do you mean it works every time? It works every time. See, look at the system right here. It works every time. And you got to understand, as human beings, we designed in a way where our heart and our brain is on the top, and our stomach and our reproductive organs is at the bottom, right? So that's the lower nature and the higher nature. And if you let your lower nature control your higher nature, then you're going to be ass backwards. That's why you're supposed to let the top dominate. You can't let your stomach, what you want to eat and who you want to have sex with, control your life. That's why we run around like savages, because what we eat, what we put into our body, and who we having sex with is destroying us. And we letting it take over the mind and the heart, which is supposed to dominate a human being, which separate us from animals. When patterns are broken, new worlds emerge. So the only way to start to break addiction is to break patterns. And that's why in the indigenous cultures, we always had fasting. Periods of fasting where we abstain from doing certain things for a period of time to give you that inner strength to be able to break patterns. So what was the ideology of Douglas? After breaking free, knowledge was what transformed his mind and caused him to be able to move forward. He said, if there is no struggle, there is no progress. Those who profess to favor freedom and yet depreciate agitation are men who want crops without plowing up the ground. They want rain without thunder and lightning. They want the ocean without the awful roar of its many waters. This struggle may be a moral one, or it may be a physical one, or it may be both moral and physical, but it must be a struggle. See, there's no escaping struggle in life. If you run away from struggle, then you running away from life. You might as well be dead. Because struggle is the only thing that's going to make you progress in life. After you get over something, then you gain a reward and you move forward. But to not struggle is to give up. And that's one of the main reasons why addicts stay addicts, because they refuse to struggle. It's too hard. I'd rather just take this drug. Even though I lost my kids, even though I'm laying out on the street, I accept this because I don't want to struggle. And another thing about Fredrick Douglass that a lot of people don't know is that he was one of the first people to advocate for women's rights in a good way. When black people first got the right to vote, black men, he said, if women don't have the right to vote too, I don't even want to vote. He actually showed up at the first women's conference. I forget the year it was, but this how long that he was putting in work about justice for everybody. So some things about his legacy. Now, he established a relationship with Lincoln for different reasons, right? Now, on August 19th, he returned to the White House, one of his many visits to the White House, where President Lincoln was impressed that, Douglas was impressed that Lincoln prolonged their conversation. He held up some other governors because he wanted to speak more to Douglas. Now, one of the main reasons why he wanted to talk to him was because when they did the Emancipation Proclamation, the slaves in the South didn't know that they was free. And so he used Douglas, won't you go down to the South, get these people to know that they free, and try to get them into this war. Get them to come join the Union Army so they could fight for their freedom. So Douglas pretty much had an arrangement with Lincoln that he was going to try to help establish this and get the people to know that in the South that they was free. Now remember, the Emancipation Proclamation did not free the slaves. It only freed the slaves in the southern states, and that was a military tactic. But the slaves in the north would still remain slaves. Lincoln did not free them. This was only a military tactic because it was a war between the north and the south. So that's pretty much what I just said. He told the slaves, Lincoln said, the slaves are not coming rapidly enough, so won't you go and tell them. So pretty much some other things about his legacy. In 1845, he published 3 autobiographies. He came back to New York and he published the North Star. Like I said previously, it was 1848 when he went to the first Women's Rights Convention. In 1858, John Brown stayed at Douglas' house while he planned the slave revolt. And that's why Douglas had to flee the country for a while, because they was after him because they thought he had something to do with what John Brown had did. In 1863, Douglas served as the recruiter for the 54th Massachusetts Volunteer Regiment. And that was that movie, Glory. And I think they show him in Glory. They got somebody playing him. But that movie with Denzel, that was about, he had something to do with putting that army together, that first black regiment. So that was, Douglas was involved with that. 1877, he was made the U.S. Marshal of the District of Columbia. In 89, he was the Consul General to Haiti and the Minister Resident in charge of the affairs for Santo Domingo. Now, he stayed in that position for a few years until he seen that they had a different agenda that they had going on in Haiti, and he resigned. And then in 1895, he died February 20th in Washington, D.C. at Cedar Hills, Anacostia, where he had built a mansion there to live. So he did a lot of things coming from a slave, an addict, to overcome all those struggles and to become the great man that we know today. Now, he would have never did that if he kept on being a slave to his addiction, if he kept running from the struggle. But because he stood up, now we know about him today, and there's so many other accomplishments that he did. And when Lincoln died, he actually spoke at the funeral, and he was a straightforward man. And one of the things he said about Lincoln was, he is the white man's president. He holds the same supremacist views as his other white counterparts. But in his heart of hearts, he really didn't agree with making somebody else be a slave. He was kind of like on the note that this was Lincoln. I think we superior to y'all. Like, don't get it messed up. I believe that white people is superior, but I don't really agree with enslaving y'all though. But other people like doing it, so it is what it is. But he himself wasn't really for trying to take what another man working for. So that was pretty much his position. But he did believe that he and all white people were superior to black people, and that they should go back to Africa or another place because we never was going to be able to live in complete justice. That was Lincoln's views. So Barack Hussein Obama II, right? Now he is a junior. He's named after his father, right? And a lot of people feel a lot of different ways about Obama. For the purposes of this lecture, I just want to focus on his addiction and him overcoming it. That's what I want to focus on. Not necessarily his policies or this or that. I'm just talking about him, his example that he overcame addiction. Our insistence that we have broken free from the negative propaganda is wishful thinking. Big afros, clenched fists, and danceable slogans to fight centuries of unremitting exposure to twisted images and dehumanizing messages. This is a quote from Tom Burrell's book, Brainwash. So he's saying that us thinking that saying black power, wearing a dashiki, that ain't gonna do it. You ain't free from this brainwashing yet. You know what I'm saying? Now I put that quote there to say the symbol of Obama and his family is positive for our people to see. For the men and the women. Just to see a black family together. That we are together. We're married. It's a family. It's something positive. Whatever else come from him, this was something good. The symbolism of what Obama represents is good.